Hello and thanks for stopping by. This is Combat Cars for the Sega Genesis, and I'm playing this game on a Mega SG console from a cartridge. This particular game was released by Accolade back in 1994, and I didn't play it back then, but I'm playing it now, and I have to say, I really wanted this game to be better than it actually is. This one should have all the trappings of a good game, but it was clearly executed poorly. It's like no one ever sat down with the game and play tested it and asked if it was any fun. First, it's not an easy game, and I don't need a game to be easy, but it has to have some sort of ramp up. I came to this one thinking it would be a lot like RC Pro-Am for the NES. Now, I never thought RC Pro-Am was an easy game in particular, but it has early levels, and in those levels they're very playable, and they build you up to the more difficult ones. This game looks great. It has great music. It lets you choose your character, but it's just super difficult, and it's not forgiving, pretty much from the very beginning. You can also select difficulty levels, easy, medium, and hard. It starts out on easy, but it's so difficult I can't imagine what medium or hard would be like. This is one of those games, this racing game where you have to get out ahead almost immediately and find a way to stay ahead. That's it. And your cars actually have offensive weapons to a certain extent. They vary per character, but you have an offensive capability, but they're not useful like you'd actually think. So there are a bunch of different characters you can play. As you're starting to get into the game, it gives you, I think, an option of 8 or 10 characters to choose from. They all have different sort of statistics and skills. Some can accelerate faster than others, some handle the vehicle better. These little dossiers are sort of put up on screen for you to read when you select them, and I have to say it's nice, although these dossiers don't make the game any easier to play. Pretty much it's just you looking for these statistics. And it's basically the statistics that are going to make the car handle properly or not, really. The first time I played this game, I went through the dossiers, and I selected a character that I thought was going to be interesting. The game started, and I lost in a huge way. Just like that. Basically, you have to come within the top 3 of the race to advance. If you lose the game, if you're not in the top 3, the game is over. That really stinks, because there are a total of 24 levels here, and there are no saves. There are no continues. I did some searching on this game, and I think there are actually 6 different tracks, but various levels of difficulty for each of those tracks, which is also even more confusing considering, okay, 24 variations, that's all on easy. If they become more difficult as the game goes, plus you have the ability to select the difficulty in the game, I would imagine that hard mode has got to be absolute lunacy. Now, you can't even choose your racetrack without a cheat, so there is a cheat. That was nice to find. But what are the chances you're going to be such an ace in this game that you're going to actually get far enough in it to get to the final stages of the game? I can't see anybody getting really far in this game without a cheat of some kind, or an emulation station that can freeze the game, slow it down maybe. Just as a game, plugging the cart in, this game is pretty much impossible. When you do place in the game, in the top 3, you get money, and you can use this money to upgrade your car. Great. This is a good thing to have. But the upgrades, they're really expensive, and they're very slow coming. When I beat my first race, I could afford 1 upgrade out of a total of, well, a stack of potential upgrades. There are a bunch of different areas of your car you can upgrade. But you can only really upgrade 1 if you have the funds for it. So how helpful is that? I would have hoped that the stats were a little more granular, so you could upgrade multiple statistics at once, even a little bit. It's too bad on this particular point. It really would have changed things. Well, it would have changed some things. So, I went back into the game, and after finding a more agreeable character, I did manage to beat the first level. When I started the second level, this is where it really blew up. It was terrible. Absolutely terrible. In your car, if you go off the track, you skid to almost a complete stop. Naturally, nobody in this game is skidding off the track but you. All the computer cars, no problem. They appear to be perfect racers, and they're just there to make you get more embarrassed as you play. And this is really disappointing to me, because the game looks great. It has great music. It's a bummer that it has this insane ramp-up of difficulty. The game does let you change the button loadout, and at first I thought that was great, but after having it in action, I don't know how useful it actually is to be able to move where your brake button is. I can't say the game handling controls good enough to where it actually would matter. I tried a few different settings thinking it might help the gameplay, but it didn't seem to really help. Overall, I think this game is lacking 4 big things. If it had these 4 things, I think the game would move from a really terrible rental to a potentially decent game. The first 2 points. This game needs saves, and this game needs continues. To have these, this would go a long way for this game for sure. It would make a really difficult game feel at least a bit more fair and make you want to keep going because you're not afraid to just completely lose all of your progress. You go through a few tracks, 5 or 6 tracks even, I mean that's not even putting you at 25% of the way through the game. You lose the race, it's all gone. How horrible is that? If you could at least save or continue from that spot, it wouldn't be too bad. Third, the difficulty needs to be changed. The ramp up of difficulty is way too fast. The first track isn't necessarily easy. It's not too difficult. It's passable. But the second track is absolutely crazy. If you veer off the track, your car comes to almost a complete stop. It doesn't just slow down. It almost stops outright. So frustrating. Basically, on the second stage, you're telling your user base, this game is impossible to play. Because all the other cars never stop. They have no problem. I think a lot of people would put this game down immediately at this point, and they just toss it in a closet. This difficulty level should change. The later tracks aren't any easier either, so it's not just a reorder problem. Okay, there also needs to be a map overlay on the screen to let you know what the actual layout is. As it is now, you're going to pretty much lose every single track that you've never raced on, because you have to go as fast as you possibly can to beat the other cars, and you have absolutely no idea how the track is going to turn. You just don't know until you're suddenly racing off the track. Without a track overlay, the game forces you to try to memorize every track just so you know how to race them. And I think that's a tall order for a game like this. 24 different potential tracks, and you get kicked out of the game if you don't place in the top 3. An overlay would be huge. I need to know if I'm approaching a left turn or a right turn. It's a bummer they didn't have it. The one thing I did find was there is one cheat out there for the game that's useful. If you go to the options menu and you highlight the exit option, when that's highlighted you press A, B, C and start at the same time. And if you do it right, you'll get a message on screen and it says it'll unlock all the levels. At this point, when you're choosing your character to race, and it shows you a picture of the level you're about to race, you can press and hold the select button and it'll advance to the next track. Pretty much that's the only way I'm ever going to see these other tracks anyway. I checked out the third level. It's a mountain level, and honestly, it was just as crappy as the second level. You skid off the main track, which is really narrow, you're going to come to an almost complete stop, and it's super frustrating. I really wish this game was better than it is. I can't believe that they would let this out there. And I know this is something that wasn't uncommon back in the day when these cartridges came out. They had to finalize a game, and they had to get it out the door. The problem here is they never sat down and had an objective person play this game to tell them if it was any good or not. More modern games, problems aren't really the same because they can put patches online for the most part. But here, this is all we're ever going to get. If there ever was a Genesis game that somebody should re-engineer and hack and try to fix, it would be this one. Well, that's all I have today for Combat Cars for the Sega Genesis. Thanks for stopping by to take a look, and I'll catch you on another video.